Okay.
Yay.
Yes. Good job. All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
Okay. We are live.
We're live.
Miss Rebecca Veksler. I think we've sorted the technical problems out. We are back and we are recording a podcast episode now live with Miss Rebecca Veksler from Sydney, Australia. Welcome.
Hello.
No delay.
No. And that is all on phone Wi-Fi. So thank you to that.
Excellent. Thanks for doing this.
Hello. Yeah, no, I'm so happy, so excited. And as I said, I'm so happy to see you. I can't believe it's been so long. And it's just nice to see your face.
Likewise, dude. It's been 3 or 4 years. No, it's been more than 3 years. It's been more like 4 or 5 years since I was making your coffee at Harry's in Bondi.
Wow, I would have been 21 or 20 even then, if we're talking for at least 4 years ago. So I feel like it's been a century for me. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, you've gone through a massive evolution in that time. Back then, you were in the fitness industry.
Yes.
You were figuring out your path into the fitness industry, and now you're in the coffee industry.
Such a weird flip, but it's so funny, like, to think the journey, because it wasn't by choice. It wasn't like I decided that's it, I want to go to the coffee industry. It was the accidental universal turn on my head where my body just didn't give me a choice. So yeah.
It's I can relate with regards to accidental thingies. This was an absolute accident. So I think that those are the greatest ones that, and for anyone who's listening and not watching, I was just holding up a bottle of elixir, which was, if you're listening to this podcast and you've heard previous episodes, you know that was a happy accident. Why don't you tell us about your accident? Because I don't know about this. How did this happy accident happen for you?
Yeah, it's a pretty strange story, and to keep it sort of nice and concise, basically I was in the fitness industry. I was very passionate about that industry. My whole world was about health and educating people, empowering people, and making sure that I was providing them with this exciting new adventure of how to be the best cheers, the best version of yourself. And it was so inspiring, and it's something that I'm so passionate about still, but I wasn't listening to my body. So I was working really hard. I was managing a gym. I was training back-to-back clients all day, and I was also working on another startup. So I was actually trying to build another company that was in the wellness industry. I was doing workshops on mental health and in high schools and unis and all that. And I was loving it and having just so much, fireworks, and so much stuff was happening. And I got really sick. So you don't know this story. So most people, even though you were there around the time it sort of happened, I think I was so introverted in the situation, no one would have known unless I told them. So I basically woke up one day and I couldn't walk.
What?
So yeah, it was very shocking, and and it wasn't just I couldn't walk. It was I actually woke up in chronic pain. So head to toe, the most excruciating level of pain you can imagine, where I couldn't physically stand up. I couldn't hold up a glass. I couldn't use my hands. I couldn't, move my hands up and down. I couldn't bend my knees. I couldn't get out of bed, and it was completely unannounced. And I'm sure if I really think about it, there were probably signals of, fatigue and, mental exhaustion and all that. And obviously my nervous system crashed.
Dude, I remember at the time you were working. I mean, we were all working ourselves to the bone. And anyone who's got a startup knows what that feels like. But you were going that extra mile because you had a quite rigorous social life on top of that. Maybe like put your phone on silent or something.
Yeah, it's on Do Not Disturb. Someone's really trying.
They really are. But yeah, you had like a vigorous social life on top of the startup life, which I don't know how you did it, but the exhaustion was huge for you. I remember at the time you were coming in and getting a coffee every morning, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're gonna fucking kill yourself.
I know. And it wasn't one coffee. I was drinking a lot of coffees, actually. I was doing like up to 4 a day because I'd be working from, 5 a.m., opening the gym, training clients. I'd come and see you at 7:38, have a coffee. Then I'd go back and teach. And then I'd, be working on my startup. And then I'd be teaching again and then closing the gym at 10 p.m. And then I'd be training myself for 2 hours because I was obsessed with fitness. And it was havoc. And my body essentially shut down. That's literally what happened. It just went into like denial. It was like, nope, you are not moving anymore. That's it. And it was, sorry, you were going to say something.
Did it manifest itself just physically, or was it, I don't know, was it a digestive thing as well? Was it, did you feel mentally sound? Did you feel, other than the inability to walk, was there anything else that was going on?
Yeah. Oh, it absolutely knocked me off my feet in terms of emotional trauma because obviously the pain is horrible, right? No one wants to feel pain, and especially when it doesn't stop. So it's not just like, oh, you have a headache and you take a Panadol, it goes away. It's continuous, nonstop, and you have to find a coping mechanism. It's like torture, right? It doesn't go away. So on top of that, I have the mental health and emotional trauma of being depressed because if exercise is the only thing that makes me happy at the time, obviously something's wrong already. And I don't have my coping mechanism. So what am I supposed to do, right? And then it's the other side of things of the unknown. So you have fear and that anxiety of, is this going to get worse? Will I be in a wheelchair? Will I not be able to walk?
Fuck, that must have been terrifying.
Right? And then on top of that, obviously not understanding what it is, right? No one knew what the hell it was. You have doctors saying things that are scary, or, I'm in hospital, or I'm getting tests and exams, and, being absolutely annoyed to death by everyone who wants to be part of the solution, with no progress. So it's like everyone has an opinion, but no solution, no progress. So it was 3.5 months of absolute, real, hard-ass depression. Like, could not function as a human. I was just like, if I left the house, if, I got my mum and whoever else, my friends, my brother, to help me get out of the house and go and eat something or whatever, I'd just be completely like normal. And then 4 seconds later, I'd start crying because you can't function. It's like, it's such a horrible feeling, and I don't wish that upon anyone. But
dude, I'm so sorry that you went through that.
Oh, I mean, I'm not even sorry because it took me to a much more grounded, meaningful place. I mean, I obviously had to learn a lesson, right? I had to slow the fuck down.
Yeah.
To say it nicely.
Hey, Rebecca, there's just a bit of a, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's an echo happening. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay, great. That's fine. I think it's sorted now. No, I think I can hear it from, is your microphone plugged in properly? Just take it out and plug it back in again, if you wouldn't mind.
How does that sound?
It's only when I'm speaking, but
okay.
Yeah, I think that's sorted itself out. It should be fine. So going back to that, so did you figure out what the trigger was? Is it chronic fatigue? Is it was it something like Lyme's disease, or what was it?
So it's definitely autoimmune related. It is an autoimmune disease, but since I was 14 already had chronic fatigue. That is just something I always had. And then obviously through diet and exercise, I managed it. But this was a whole new type of autoimmune that isn't directly related to chronic fatigue. It just was onset by a nervous system that was overworked and overstimulated, and probably by thyroid as well. I think it's a whole combination of hormones and all of that. So yeah, it was set on just by a body that was overexhausted, overstimulated, and kept being pushed.
Yeah, dude, have you like looked into the the levels of balance in your gut bacteria and stuff like that? Have they
Yeah,
checked
and
that out?
I love that you say that, because of course it's all related. But this is slightly different, which luckily for me doesn't affect my gut. It's more about, it's something called fibromyalgia,
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
which they give it a name when they don't know what it is,
Right.
which I love.
I feel like everyone's got
Um,
fibromyalgia at the moment because that's the category everyone's putting shit into that they don't know. It's sort
yeah,
of autoimmune, but we don't really know what kind of autoimmune. And I'm convinced all this shit leads back to the gut and microbiome and all of that kind
yeah,
of stuff. Anyway, go on.
I'm with you. I'm with you completely. That's exactly what I say, which is why I focus so heavily on making sure the diet is the first thing that I
Mhm.
work on. So you'll love this. Basically, the 3 months when it first all happened, my entire diet was nothing but bone broth. That's it.
Really?
And I truly believe that that is what helped me start to heal from the inside.
So tell me what it was about the bone broth that you think was the thing that sorted things out for you.
I
That's
think
really
it all, yeah, I think it all had to do with good bacteria and obviously gut, and as much nutrients and vitamins for obviously bone and vitamin B, vitamin K, like everything. I don't know if you ever have bone broth yourself, or if you're
no.
in
I'm
that sort
I'm
of.
100% plant based.
Okay, so there you go. So that's okay. I mean, in that case,
But
you can
having
still.
said that, sorry to cut you off that there. Um, I'm the kind of person who I also don't drink alcohol and I don't do any drugs and stuff like that. But if I needed it for medicinal purposes, that's a whole different story. I feel that if there was a reason for me to eat a piece of meat or drink bone broth that was important to my healing, if I needed to drink some alcohol, I remember having like the worst flu in the world. And I was convinced, this was back when I was married, and I was convinced that I wasn't drinking alcohol. And I was convinced I was going to take no medicine. And my husband's grandmother said, "Bring Lee to me." And I went over, and they had this homemade, what they call rakia, the
Oh yeah,
Macedonians. And
yeah,
they
yeah.
heated up this rakia and they added sugar to it. And she'd made me take 4 shots of it. Dude, I was fucking fine by the next morning.
Oh, that is a good method, Lee.
So alcohol when required for medicinal purposes, bone broth when required for medicinal purposes. I haven't needed it. I haven't been sick since I became plant-based. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
again, if I needed to, nothing would stop me from finding the medicine that was required to fix me.
yeah. Well, that's beautiful, and I'm with you on that. I'm very much exploring all different avenues of healing. Like, I'm not just limited to Western medicine or not Western. Like, I've basically tried everything you can imagine, especially
Have
with.
you done plant-based?
I have not, to be honest. I
No.
haven't, because I really feel like my body can't function without it. And it might be a naive thing to say, but I know my body, like I listen to it. So if I don't have a piece of meat in maybe 2 weeks, my iron levels are like, I'm basically like drooling. Like, I need to have a piece of
Yeah.
meat. And I'm all about ethical food and making sure that I really understand where my food comes from. So in respect to that, I choose wisely what I eat, but I don't think I could really function fully without having protein like that.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, each to their own. I'm not here to
Yeah.
push plant-based onto anybody. I'm just interested when people are exploring different diets, how they go about figuring out what their body is telling them and not. The thing I love about this podcast is that it's just a fucking conversation, so we can talk about whatever we want. It's not an interview. And so we're like 20 minutes in or something, and we haven't said a thing about coffee, which is great.
Love it.
So the other thing I was going to ask you was, how did they decide on the fibromyalgia
It was
diagnosis? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah. It was literally funnily enough, I was actually, I was doing a lot of counseling at the time because I felt I was in such a bad place in terms of my mental health and not understanding and not coping with the fact that I couldn't physically move. And one of the women that I was talking to, she actually thought of it, and I'd never heard of it in my life. And she was like, "You should Google this. Maybe this is what you have. Maybe this is it. You should tell your doctor to look into it." And I was like, "This is insane. I cannot believe you are telling me that this is what I have." Like, I was not willing to accept it because it sounded so horrible when she described it. And it actually took me so but emotionally, in the sense that I just couldn't accept that you were telling me I had chronic pain. I'm like, this is not chronic. This is not forever. Like, ridiculous. Shut up. But I still went and had a chat to my doctor about it. And he's like, look, it's a bit of a far-fetched thing to say, but we can investigate it. And I went into some really intensive autoimmune testing with specialists. Mm-hmm. And then it turned out, they said, well, you definitely have autoimmune regardless of what it is. And if your symptom is pain, then we will categorize you as fibromyalgia. That's the only thing we can do because there's no actual way to test. It doesn't exist. Like, none of it exists. So yeah, that's basically how it happened.
I have a real interest at the moment in mental health with regards to business people.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's seriously something going on with some feedback here, and I don't know if it's me or if it's you. But I think I
can't hear it though. Okay. Like, you sound completely normal to me, and your video is normal.
Dude, I don't sound completely normal to anybody. Like, let's get that straight. I'm like the craziest fucking person that most people who know me say that.
It's okay. That's why we love you.
Thank you. But I have a real keen interest right now with the idea of mental health and how that is playing out in business and in the workplace, particularly. We're living in really fucking strange times. Yeah. And I feel that the relationship that we're having with our mental health, the way that we're pushing ourselves as business owners, startup owners, innovators in a highly competitive realm, the coffee industry. And on top of that, in a time where geopolitically everything's just weird and fucked up.
Yeah.
How are you taking care of yourself post being diagnosed with fibromyalgia and then having a startup? Like, how was that journey for you?
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing. The journey of Solcups was my coping mechanism.
Oh, wow.
That's why it's such that's why it was such an interesting startup and an interesting accident, because I'm the kind of person, for me, if I'm not inspired by something, if I'm not doing something that has an impact, like, my personal value is to create a positive impact. Right?
Yeah, I can't relate at all.
So funny. Such a smart ass. I love it.
Dude, it's my podcast. I can say whatever the fuck I want. And I'm really loving that about it, by the way. Go on.
Good.
Go ahead. You are inspired. Like, you can't do anything that you're not inspired by.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's like I need a purpose. I need inspiration in general in life. Like, I'm very, like, driven. I'm very, I need to be doing something, basically. So that was why I was so torn. It was like, imagine being hyperactive and obsessed with moving and creating, and then just having to literally stop and not having a choice. So that drives you mental. It drives you absolutely crazy. And depression was there. Mental health was an issue. And I was constantly thinking, how am I going to stay busy? How am I going to stay moving? How am I going to stay passionate and excited to actually function like a normal person? Like, why not just stay in bed and be shit and be upset, And Solcups was this weird little idea that my mum and I were constantly talking about every now and then as a joke, as like this, yeah, very funny, like, as if we're going to do this, but hold on, I've got an idea, here's a drawing, or like, you know, like, oh, I know what we should call it, or, you know, like we'd constantly be playing with it, or, oh my God, we have to make one this color, or this is the shape it's going to be. So it was always on our minds playing. And I think when I was stuck in bed, you know, not functioning, not knowing what to do, it was just something to keep me going, something to focus on. And obviously as a mother, you know, Rima was concerned. Obviously, you can imagine, no one wants to see their child go through that kind of state. So she pushed it. You know, she was like, okay, well, what else? What are some ideas? Let's have, you know, she was being more like distracting me instead of asking me, how are you feeling today? Are you okay? It was more like, all right, so where's my business plan? You know, like,
your mom's such a badass. I love her.
She's incredible. You know, you can imagine what it's like working with family. This is like next level, because
no, I couldn't. Fuck no, thank you. But anyway, go ahead.
That's what everyone says to me. Don't worry. I'm the crazy one in town. So we've got such a funny relationship. Like, it's so not mother and daughter. We are like two best friends that just, you know, just, we have such funny personalities together. We could have our own TV show. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That's great.
But that's what makes it so special, because there's no bullshit. Like, when the way you talk to your best friend or the way you talk to your family member is, there's no hiding, there's no bullshit. You just say what you want, you say how you feel, you say it without remorse. There's no sugarcoating, and then that's how we actually get results. That's how we, you know, push through all the crap and actually achieve something really special. So that's the upside.
Yeah, I'm very lucky with my business partners in that way too. We just talk straight. We don't bullshit each other. We just say it how it is. I won't do business any other way. Fuck that. There's no point.
Yeah, exactly. And that's definitely one thing I always say is, we're very transparent. Everyone, like, I can't work any other way. It's just who I am. I'm very humble. I'm honest, but I'm also very to the point. Like, I don't like all the crap in between. Like, I want this to be authentic. That's the word that I keep sort of bringing up.
So how did you go from concept? Because I remember when you were coming up with the idea for Solcups, and we were going to chat, but I had a million crazy things going on at the time, and we couldn't it was so jam-packed for me at the time. Elixir was about to launch in Australia and then America, blah, blah, blah. Actually, so it was 3 years ago around now, because the 9th of July, Elixir turns 3 in Australia.
Yeah, right. There you go. And that makes sense then.
That's when you were putting all of this together.
Yep, that's right. So that was the start.
Yeah. So how did you go from the concept to getting the first cup?
Yeah, that's the fun part for me. I mean, our background in my family's business, so what my father does and what my mother did for a long time with him, is basically manufacture products or manufacture goods from offshore. So he is the middleman between a person or a business creating a concept or creating an idea or product, and then developing it and choosing the right factory that's either, in our case, obviously ethical and sustainable, or choosing the right factory that will produce the best quality product, making sure that there's ground control and quality control 24/7, and then being that point of communication with them to Australia or to wherever you are in the world. So he's got almost, 35 to 40 years of experience doing that. And he taught all of us.
Awesome.
We're so lucky. It changed. If it wasn't for that, and growing up, I was in the factory. I was learning how my family business started their company and how they grew and how they functioned. And I was that funny little child sitting in the middle of boxes of samples and products and seeing it come in and out and understanding processes. And so I was born in the world of business and product and development. So it was in my blood. I knew it before I could understand. I knew it. And it was just something that worked really perfectly. And developing the idea to the concept to the product was just natural for us. We just knew what to do and how to do it, and how to make sure it was actually quality as well.
So when you were saying before that Solcups is very different, I think you said this when we were trying to record this the first time, but
Yes.
you said that Solcups is a very different non-disposable coffee cup. What do you mean by that? I don't understand how it's different.
Okay. Basically, it comes back to manufacturing. So it's about how the glass is actually made and what materials it's made from. So if we look at a normal reusable glass cup, so not a plastic one in this case, there's a few different types of glass. There's soda lime glass, for example, which is the cheapest manufactured glass.
Mhm.
It's quite heavy, it's quite thick, it scratches easily, it gets cloudy when you put it in the dishwasher, and it's what most reusable cups are made from these days because it's the cheapest to produce, and it's very low quality and low grade glass.
Say that again. What is it? What is it called again?
Soda lime.
Soda lime. And
Yeah.
what's the ingredients of soda lime?
So basically, glass is made up from a number of minerals, and the higher quality it is, so the more clear it is and the better looking it is, it's got a higher percentage of borosilicate.
Biosilicate, did you say?
Borosilicate.
Say that again.
Borosilicate. I'll write it for you.
Thanks.
I'll write it for you.
just so that I want to look this shit up because I'm really interested with the amount of people that are talking about, so paper cups aren't really disposable and you should be using a non-disposable cup. And so I have a metal one. I have a hydro flask.
I'll tell you something that some people don't know. Aside from it being an environmental impact, like environmental issue with disposable cups or the paper ones, the reason why, I don't know if people who are watching or listening have watched War on Waste, but it's a really great ABC series that you should go and see if you haven't. But it will explain that inside the paper cup is a very thin layer of plastic that sits inside. But on top of that, a lot of the time, the cheap cups, the cheap takeaway paper cups, are actually coated with glue or wax on the inside. The part where you actually pour the drink in. So on top of it being an environmental hazard, you're actually affecting your health. So that is directly going into your drink, into your tea or your coffee or hot beverage, and that's going into your stomach, which means that the flavor of your coffee changes. So it impacts the actual coffee and the brew itself, and it impacts your hormones because you're drinking wax and glue. Whether or not it's BPA free or FDA approved or whatever, it's still a man-made product that should not be in your body. It's toxic. So that's something really important, that the difference between a reusable cup and a takeaway paper cup is that at least you have control of what's going into your body, which is why regardless you shouldn't be drinking from a plastic reusable cup, because even if it's BPA free, there's a bunch of other shit in there that shouldn't be leaching into your drink regardless. So if you're going to choose a reusable cup, make it stainless steel or make it glass. Doesn't even matter what brand you buy. Get on board, get on the reusable cup train, and choose wisely about the product that you purchase. But back to backtrack slightly, it basically comes down to, we have the highest percentage of borosilicate in our glass. It's hand blown, not machine made. So it's a little bit, means we can get the glass thinner, finer, lighter. It's clearer, it's sexier, it's sleeker, and it just looks aesthetically better and feels better to drink from. So I also designed the shape of the lip to feel better to actually drink from as well. So it's a better experience. And those are the key differences of the actual materials compared to any other one out there that is machine made.
Do people break them?
Depends how clumsy you are. But I usually ask the question is, how often do you drop your coffee? So people tend to really hold on tight to their coffee. It doesn't happen often.
I can't remember the last time I dropped a coffee. It's the only thing that makes me wonder about buying reusable glass, like mobile things like that, is, I don't know, I might put it in my bag and then put my bag down on the floor and it might break in there or something like that. But I wouldn't tend to.
Yeah, look, It comes up a lot. People always ask because I think people are scared of responsibility. It's like if you give someone,
Yeah, fuck they are.
do you know
Yes,
what I mean? Like it's basic psychology. Like people are just scared to be accountable for something. So what we did, we created a waterproof pouch that you can get with your cup. That's cushioned, that's soft and protective. It's actually made of hemp as well. And it protects the glass from breaking when you're not using it, but it's also waterproof. So you just close it tight and then it won't spill in your bag or in the car, or, you know, you can hang it, you can just put it around your wrist and swing it along. So I think people just need to get used to the fact that yes, it's a glass cup, but I mean, in my lifetime, I haven't broken one, which is really impressive because I'm so clumsy.
You really?
But, oh my God, so clumsy. You have no idea. Like I can fall upstairs. I could just be standing and I slightly tip over. Like I'm not even exaggerating. You can ask my boyfriend. He's just like constantly looking over me going like, are you okay? Like what happened?
Which surprises me because you're not someone who actually needs other people to look after you.
I know, right? But that's my one thing. I'm so grounded, but I'm really fucking clumsy. I can't help it.
The only flaw that Rebecca has.
Oh, no, there's plenty more. Don't worry.
I love how people look at business owners and think that they're doing fabulously well with, you know, clearly because you have a business, you have millions of dollars and you know how to do everything because you're in business and you know how to do everything.
Do you know what the difference is? It's not about knowing how to do everything. It's about willing to learn on the spot. It's about learning to do whatever you need to do and not being scared of, you know, like just doing it, just trying and attempting it. So that's the difference.
Yeah, when I talk to people about being an entrepreneur or being a business owner or anything in that vein, when they ask me what's the most important skill that they need to develop, I tell them adaptability.
Yes. Yeah. And resilience. Get over shit quickly. That's the other thing.
That one took me a long time.
Yeah.
I think the difference for me is I see resilience and thick skin as being two different things. You know, resilience is, in my interpretation anyway, is being able to weather things, you know, difficult moments. Whereas having thick skin is a whole different other.
Yeah, it's a different category because you don't forget that it's actually very important to be in touch with your sensitivity. It's all well and good to have thick skin, but if you don't process the situation and you don't actually listen to your gut and understand the moments, you might not make the right you might not choose the correct direction, and you might base it on an emotional reaction or it's about, yes, having thick skin, but also first just understanding or accepting the situation, being in touch with it. And
empathy. The idea of getting over shit quickly is something that you really do have to learn as a business owner, but learning what shit to get over quickly and what not to get over quickly, understanding for me, it was I didn't know how to get over the fact that an entire industry seemed to be against me, and I couldn't for the life of me understand why. And, people were being very clear about their disdain for what I was doing with Elixir. I should have got over that a lot quicker than I did. I was trying to understand the behavior because that was my thing was I didn't understand why they were being mean to me. I've never understood that behavior, but I've had it my whole life. Bullies have always liked to have their way with me. And so they kept coming at me and I was like, but why are they doing this? I don't understand. I'm such a nice person. Why are these people being assholes? Whereas what I should have been doing is realizing that as long as I'm focusing on that narrative, I'm not focusing on my business 100%. And that was a power that I gave up to the assholes when I should have been focusing on my business. And, these are the lessons that you have to go through if you want to be doing this a long time. And, if I finally got off that fucking train, which is great. Now I'm like, say whatever you want. I literally give zero fucks.
Well, that's the funny thing. I mean, you're always going to have people that on some level will say, I don't understand this, or I don't understand you, or why are you doing this? And they'll question it. But at the same time, you just must realize that it's not about you. It's about them. It's about their own misunderstanding or their own inability to connect with something. So it's a really cliche way of saying it's not their problem with you isn't with you, it's with themselves.
Right,
so,
exactly. And it was more of a thing of they couldn't get their head around what I was doing. And now I understand that it's a huge compliment, what was going on. And look, honestly, people were telling me that at the time, Lee, this is great. It's awesome that so many people hate you. And I was like, no, who wants people to hate them? I just want people to love what I'm doing and be supportive of what I'm doing. And it is really shit that people want to see me fail. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that somebody pulled me aside. And it was actually when I was in Australia last year that somebody pulled me aside and said to me, hey, listen, I was reading an article about Trump and it made me think of you. And I'm like, this has been a really shit trip, but this is probably the worst thing anyone's said to me so far.
Oh,
like,
shit,
no. He said the article was about the way that Trump makes people feel. And I think that you have done something similar with regards to the coffee industry. And I'm like, still not sounding great. He said, look, Trump he triggers a sense of cognitive dissonance in a community. And you've done the same thing with what you're doing. And it challenges people about their own sense of themselves and their place in the coffee world and what they're doing. And so the people who look at what you're doing and it's not for them, it's just not for them. But then there is this whole other group of people that need you to know that you've created a problem for them. And that's where you've become such a disliked person in coffee.
And that's why I don't like you.
And
it's
and he's like,
interesting.
He's like, dude, I'm here to tell you I'm sorry because I was one of them.
Yeah, right.
I was one of those people who was standing in crowds with people and Elixir would come up or your name would come up and everyone would be like, oh, she's a bitch and she doesn't know what she's doing and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, I was there agreeing with them, but I hadn't met you at that point and I hadn't tasted Elixir at that point and I didn't understand what was going on. So I'm one of your biggest champions. Now I say that, I'm the first one to say, no, you've got it all wrong. But, you know, these are things that, dude, it took me forever to fucking learn these lessons. I had people that were telling me, you know, Lee, this is, you've got to get over this as quickly as possible. And I'd be like crying in the fetal position, wondering why I was getting all this hate mail and these threats and all this kind of bullshit. Like, who sends people threats for a fucking beverage?
I don't know. It's the coffee industry itself is a little bit special. You know, we know that.
How have you experienced special in the coffee industry?
Well, this is the thing. Let me start off by saying when I went through what I went through, I left all my previous insecurities, all my previous issues, my ego, any drama, anything I left behind me. Because I learned so much through what I experienced that everything else, everybody else's opinion, everybody else's values or visions, it was irrelevant because I was secure with my own, right? So when I entered into this world, although I dabbled in the coffee industry as almost a friend, I never stepped into it. This is what I did differently. I didn't say, I am the coffee industry, or I'm part of the coffee industry, because I learned from those around me that would be a mistake.
Yes.
And being also, I worked with my brother a little bit. So David, he builds cafes, he's got guru projects. So I got to experience that world with him and just, be on the side, be part of his team a little bit and just get to know a few more people in the industry. And I quickly understood that this is not where I fit in. And I don't need to be their best friend. I don't need to be in the social circles. I don't need to be involved. And I will always come in and say hello and be grateful and kind for my clients that are in the hospitality industry, because that is what made us successful in Australia. We are so grateful to the coffee and hospitality industry. We adore them, but I am not in it. And that's the most important separation. I have to make that very clear, because I don't fit in.
Neither do I do.
And I love and respect and understand the pressure and the whole drama behind it. Coffee is insane. It's insane. I've learned so much about coffee and the processes of, providing coffee and how it all works from start to finish, and the drama and the darkness in it. There's a lot of darkness in the coffee industry, but there's also a lot of joy and lightness and love and community. So it's all push and pull. It's all very chaotic, but there's also order. And I just don't want to be in the middle of it, but I absolutely support it and am your friend. That's where I sit.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Especially that darkness side of things, and Australia is a whole other level of that kind of intensity, because the Australian coffee industry is so much further along with regards to building its culture than the American industry is. And when I say building the culture, I don't mean from the coffee community necessarily. I mean our coffee drinking culture. So the people our customers that show up every day, they are intense as fuck. They know where they want to drink coffee. They're loyal. They will show up every single morning. There will be a queue, God knows how many deep, every single morning. And it's just a part of the ritual, whereas that doesn't happen here yet. It's not there.
It's coming. It'll probably kick our butts soon. I mean, I think with such a mass, can we talk about the UK for a second?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you've been to London Coffee Festival lately.
I haven't. I've worked as a barista in London though.
Okay, so it's insanely. I mean, we exhibited there this year and we exhibited there last year, and imagine 3,000 people are let into this venue every 3 hours, 3,000 new people. Wow. I filmed a line from the entrance of the Old Truman Brewery where it's located to it was a 5.5 minute video of people lined up all the way. I followed it all the way down to another suburb. It's insane. So the industry in the UK of the coffee world is really trying to catch up to Australia. They are so pushing so hard. And they're obsessed, but they just don't have the same knowledge as coffee drinkers in Australia do yet. It's just a whole other level, but I feel like it's going to catch up so quickly because of what's going on there.
Yeah, I say even the same thing here. I say to people, I mean, I've been saying it for a few years since I lived here the first time, which was in around 2009, that it's the American industry is where the Australian industry was about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but it won't take 15 years for it to get to where the Australian coffee industry is. Certainly not from the back end of it, exactly. Absolutely not from the back end of it. But from the consumer perspective, that's a whole different story. I still think that it will take a little longer. I still think that, we're only 22 million people in Australia, whereas here we're talking about 350 plus million people. Yes. So trying to onboard that many people into a new culture when there's so much diversity over here. There's a lot of coffee subcultures over here as well. So that's another thing. There's also a lot more separation with regards to socioeconomic situations. So you have people over here that for the longest time really believe that coffee should cost $1.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't ever remember a time when coffee costed $1 in Australia, a takeaway coffee.
I don't think it has.
And it's just such a revered.
Yeah, I mean, I pay like $5 for a coffee. That's just like standard. I mean, you don't even blink, you know, you just,
Yeah.
that's just what it is. It's funny, but I mean, the thing is that if it's shit, you hear about it, you know, it's like, okay, I'll pay $5, but if this is shit, you can kiss my ass. Like, you are coming back to that barista, and you're like, try again.
I remember saying to Kurnia, and I used to say this to all my puppy baristas, you get one bad coffee with each customer. They're going to give you a pass for one bad coffee. And if you fuck up the second coffee,
good luck.
That's it. They're either going somewhere else, or they never want you to make their coffee again. That's when they turn around and say, no, I want the other barista to make it. And that's how far along the coffee culture or the customer is in Australia. They know who's making their coffee. And when we say coffee in Australia, we're always talking about espresso-based drinks. For anyone that's listening, that's anywhere else.
I mean, I'm the same. I think about now, what coffee shops do I generally go to? And then if I go in and I'm like, oh no, it's that barista.
Right.
No. And I leave. I'm like, okay, I'll go to the other one today. Like, and it's such a fun, and I'm like, I know how it's going to taste. I'm not going to play this game. Like,
well, especially because we're spending so much money on coffee. It was really funny because when I'm in Sydney, I never pay for coffee, right? I come here and I'm still getting to know the cafes and whatnot. And I refuse to not pay for coffee here. And now, being someone who pays for coffee and getting not great coffee the majority of the time, it fucking pisses me off because it's expensive over here as well. I'm paying around $4 or $5 a coffee. And I'm like, fuck, you know, it's really horrible getting a shitty coffee when you have to pay for it.
But it ruins your day, you know, like it really affects your brain. Like, I remember the other day, I will not say where I had it, so do not ask me. I had a coffee and I took a sip and it was the worst thing I'd ever tasted in my life. I don't know what happened there. Like, it was just dreadful. And it was a full coffee, like a beautiful looking, but terrible tasting. And I just had to pour it down the drain. And I felt so angry. I was like, why have you done this to my day?
Well, this is what we talk about in Map It Forward. And this is probably a good time to mention this. I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug here. We just have put it up on the website. The next workshop is called The Path to Earning What You're Worth as a Professional Barista. And it's the idea of helping baristas understand how they can change their whole path by making sure that you as a customer don't experience what you just said.
Yeah.
It's every single sale that you make is determining the success of your job for the employer that you're working at, and understanding the intricacies and the nuances of that relationship between you as the barista and the customer is a game changer. And understanding the depth of the psychology behind that and what the customer experiences, it's $5 fucking. If I buy something that I'm so excited about drinking because I need this every morning, and I take a sip and it tastes like shit, one, you've just messed with my whole mood and the rest of my day. And two, I just poured $5 down the sink for nothing. And three, I didn't end up with my coffee.
Yeah, that's true. And then don't forget about the other side of things, that on top of the coffee experience, it's also the face that's giving you the coffee. Like,
and you'll never buy from them again.
I so can't enjoy, it's my favorite moment of going and catching up with my favorite baristas, because it's so lovely. It is such a lovely feeling. It's like, you are my friend. You know nothing about me, truly, but I fucking love you. Like, you bring me this golden joy of,
I couldn't believe I got paid to do it.
Yeah.
Only because for me, every morning yeah, sure, we get up at sparrow's fart and we have to be there before the sun comes up, and it's fucking terrible the first 20 minutes that you're there. Then you start seeing the first customer, and they are so excited about seeing you because they know that you're going to make them a great coffee and they're going to have great 30 seconds worth of chat with you. Their day is going to be made so much better because they've encountered you. That's so humbling.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's something I so get, because that's how I used to feel as a PT. Like I used to, that second when my alarm went off and it was 4 a.m. and it's winter and it's raining outside and it's dark and I want to like, you know, like basically
stab
do
yourself.
whatever. Yeah. You know, it's like the most horrid second of your life. And then I eventually get to the gym and I'm opening, and then you get this, you know, I used to teach a class of about 8 or 10 in the morning around that time at 5, and they'd all be buzzing at 5 a.m, running in, going, are you ready? Where's the loud music? Like, let's do this. And I just laugh. I'm like, that's why, like, it reminds you, like, that's what I wanted to feel. And it changes everything. And it's such a beautiful dynamic to experience somebody so damn happy to see your face. Like, it's like having a dog, you know, it's like when you come home and your puppy's there and all they want to do is jump on you, like that, you know, all that rush of endorphins and serotonin and everything that along with it. That's what you want.
And I don't know why that hasn't transpired here in the States yet. You know, I
think it depends. I think it depends on where in the States.
It's pretty much everywhere, that we're not really getting that. I wonder if it's because of the different ways in which espresso in coffee is served. So they have so many different ways of serving coffee over here that the physicality of the whole setup is very different. So for example, over here, you'll have a pour over station as well as espresso, as well as, you know, the cold brew side and all of that. Whereas in Australia, really, the espresso machine is where it's at. And when you walk in, you're typically ordering, because your barista's never taking your order. Someone else is taking your order. And so it's quite separated. Someone takes the order, then you go and get to hang out with your barista and you just talk with them for the whole time that you're waiting for your coffee. And whereas here, it's not the same kind of concentrated focus that people get to have with their barista. And I think that that's the part of it that people are missing.
It's the direct interaction. But what about, I mean, can you not also call it back to the culture as well? Like, I mean, look, let's take Sydney as an example. Especially let's look at where Harry's is in eastern suburbs in Bondi Beach. Like, let's look at the lifestyle and the actual personality of the customers you're meeting. We are all up at 5 a.m. doing yoga or running on the beach or surfing or gymming. And then our day starts at 10 because for some reason no one works in the area. And they're all on their laptops, you know, like everyone's very relaxed. It's always warm. It's always sunny. It's like Australia, like, you know, that's just our laid back attitude. We're all very chilled. Even the ones that are corporate and going to work, they're still got blonde scruffy hair and they just came from the, you know, the surf, and they quickly changed. They've still got half their wetsuit on underneath or whatever it is, or they're in thongs. And, you know, it's very, we already have that vibe and that energy that's just like, man, I'm so happy to see you. Like, this is such a good day. It's so beautiful. It's slow. It's relaxed. It's mindful. And then maybe they'll go into the city and have the craziest stressful day ever. But they know that moment with you is like their chill time, even if they're not talking to the barista, they're talking to one of the waitresses or waiters at the cafe, or they're catching up with the person behind them in the line that they see every morning at the same time. Or, you know, there's just like that culture of community where we are, for example. And I just think that really translates in building the relationship. So with America, I guess, like I said, that's why I was sort of saying it depends where you are, because I feel like in the warmer parts, maybe in LA, there's a little bit more room to create that.
I'm in San Diego, which is pretty much even better than being in LA because we don't have the traffic and it's so super laid back. it's really interesting because the cafe that is closest to me, which I'm not going to mention because they don't deserve the attention, I've been going there to take meetings for over 2 years now.
Yeah, right.
And excuse me. And you believe
I'm just
never once.
Talking for a second.
No problem. And you believe in 2 years they've never asked me my name.
Oh wow.
That would never happen in Australia. It's part of our training when we train our puppy baristas. What are you holding up there?
It's my laptop charge. I'm sorry. I had to get it because otherwise I was going to die, and then it would have not been fun.
But look, there are some fantastic cafes over here, and a couple that I do want to mention from San Diego. Lofty Coffee is fantastic. They're not elixir dealers or anything like that, and they really are fantastic. They always ask my name. They remember me. I know the staff. Another one is Steady State. They are elixir dealers, and they're awesome. They're always high-fiving, and a Cat and Cloud. So there are some cafes that very much are like that. The interesting part about it, though, is they're all cafes that are modeling themselves after Australian models.
I was just going to ask you that. That was the first thing I was going to say, because that's something you notice straight away. Doesn't matter where you are in the world. I will walk into a place and say, someone's Australian in here. Yeah. Like hands down. Like I remember I was in London and I was walking around looking for cafes to stock Solcups, just testing out the market, sussing things out. And I walked into one, and it was the first cafe that someone greeted me when I walked in.
Wow, that's interesting.
It was the first one all day. And the girl straight away was just like, hey, welcome. Hello, how are you? Like, what's happening? And I swear, I didn't even say anything except, are you Australian? Straight away, I just knew it. She even had an English accent. She's like, yeah, I'm from Melbourne. I'm like, I knew it straight away.
There's just by the attitude in the way that we do things, and I honestly think that that's just because our coffee culture, not from the workforce perspective, but from the coffee drinking culture, is just far more developed than it is over here, and customers have learned more how to be customers. And coffee connoisseurs, I hate that term, but they're customer connoisseurs, to be honest with you. Like, these people know how to order. They know how to walk up. They know that there's 15 people standing behind them. They have 20 seconds tops Max. To be speaking to this person. And even then, that's if they get to say, hey, how are you? What have you been doing this weekend? But you turn up and you say, latte, 1 sugar, thanks. Don't say any other words. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know any more than that's, hey, how you doing? I have a latte with 1 sugar. As the person taking your order, I don't even have time to be asking you whether you need sugar. That was how bad it was at Harry's and Campos and a bunch of the places, the Cook and Baker, all of those places. It was just too intense. But I think what we are very lucky about over here is that we have a very passionate workforce that's starting to evolve. I have mentioned this before, but we have Uber and Lyft to thank about that. You don't have Lyft in Australia yet.
No.
But it's the alternative to Uber. And with the introduction of, I don't know if you know this, but being a barista in Australia is a well-paid and highly regarded profession.
Yes.
In America, it's still a minimum wage job.
Yeah, I've heard this.
But with the introduction of Uber and Lyft, what we've seen is that people have figured out, I don't have to stand up on my feet all day to earn minimum wage. I can just go and drive Uber and earn better than minimum wage. I set my own schedule. I don't have to answer to anybody, and it's great. So there's been a mass exodus out of the coffee industry, whether it be the commodity coffee side of things or the more specialty side. But there's been a mass exodus of people that have left, leaving the passionate people behind. And so the people who are passionate are left with this approach, and this is why Map It Forward was started, is because we've been left with a workforce that's super excited and passionate, but if they're still on the same pay scale in 5 years, we're going to lose that skill set, because
of course you are. Yeah, exactly. It's unacceptable.
they're going to need to have money to have babies and buy houses.
You need to survive.
Go on holidays and things like that. And you're not going to survive in California on $11 an hour for very long, let me tell you.
Wow. No, it's insane.
Not with how expensive, San Diego is on par with Sydney with regards to how expensive it is now.
Jesus. And good luck.
Yeah, well, the minimum wage here is $11.50.
Wow.
Whereas Australia's baristas in Sydney are earning on the low end $25 an hour.
So, something like that.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting time. And hopefully what we're going to be able to do is, with the plan that we've put in place, from here to the end of 2022, we want to see baristas paid $20 an hour and no more tipping. So, we've got a plan. We just need people to start.
You've got a vision. Yeah.
Yeah. That's that crazy that everyone sees in me.
Keep it. Don't let it go. Yeah, it's beautiful. And I
go ahead.
Go on. No, you go.
No, I was just going to ask about what's happening now, because are you guys in the States yet with Solcups?
We did things a bit differently. We work with an amazing distributor in Canada, and he ships to the States, so you can contact or work with him directly if you want Solcups in your cafe, or if you want to purchase them yourself online. He manages that, but I stayed out of the States for now.
How come?
For now, I made a very calculated decision based on what we can achieve in the UK and in Europe compared to the spend and the struggle of what we would only possibly maybe achieve in the States. And it would at least take a minimum of 5 years, whereas in UK and Europe, we can do it now and beautifully, and enjoy the experience too. Because it's so complicated in the States. It's so harsh. It's so not fun. I don't find it fun. It doesn't sound appealing to me, like right now, especially. It's too intense, and it's not in the good way, not in the, there's so much opportunity. It's ruthless. It's ruthless, and they want to eat you alive, and it will mean I have to reassess my product and reassess the manufacturing process. And I can't function that way at the moment. So I want to keep my foot out for now.
When you say that, what are the particular, and if you can't talk about it, you can't talk about it, but what are the particular kinds of challenges that you've experienced coming to the US?
So here, the funny thing is, we had a lot of interest. So it was never really a challenge. It wasn't like we weren't wanted there and we didn't think about it. We had some amazing people contact us and basically say, like, we will give you money. You can do it, come and make it happen. But I really thought about it. I didn't fall into opportunity based on it just being there, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do. So the challenge is that if we took it and we took the opportunity and worked with these people, there's no way that I'd be in loss for a long time. That's the truth of it, even if we are successful, which I don't see not happening. Like, I know people will love us and I know it will work well, because there's a beautiful story and so much love in it, and it's seen. But it will mean that I have to take all my energy and all my time there. It means I need to move there. It means I need to stay there and actually be there. And I can't do that at the moment. I would rather focus on Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Europe, Singapore. Like, I want to be here and I want to make this flourish and successful truly before I go and spread myself thin, because that's what would happen.
Yeah, there's this belief that you have to go into business at a loss for a long period of time before.
Which is bullshit.
Which is, for anyone that's listening, that's such horseshit. If you hear that from people, and a lot of people want to tell you that, I had loads of people tell me that. I'm like, no, that doesn't make sense to me at all. People would tell me, oh, you're selling Elixir for too expensive. Well, fuck you very much. I'll sell it for what I want to sell it for. And I'm not going to run a business at a loss. That just sounds stupid to me. It sounds like it doesn't make any sense. If I'm deciding I'm not taking investment money and we're going to build this business from scratch. Why on earth would I launch a business that is going to run at a loss?
Correct. It means you haven't created the process properly. It means you haven't thought through the business plan or the development of it or the strategy, or you don't have a proper vision, or you don't have goals. Or, I mean, you have to, okay, basically what I say is there's always a solution. Okay. There's no way around that. There is always a solution. And the way that we understand business to function is that you obviously need cash flow. You obviously need money to be able to spend, to produce, to create, to reinvest and continue the growth. But you shouldn't have to operate at a loss. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
Dude, we don't even send samples out. Which is
well, that's a whole other thing. It all comes down to what is your product, what is the value of your product, and how do you position yourself in the market. If I was positioned as a cheap shit product, then I can send as many samples out as I want because it's a cheap shit product. But if I'm positioning myself as a premium, high quality good of, glassware, of, a reusable product that's very high end, then it will reflect its value, and you must respect that. And if you don't understand or appreciate it, well, then maybe you haven't used it. Or if you don't like it or it doesn't fit with you, then that's perfectly fine. There's so many other amazing products out there that you can, use. And you just have to be okay with that as a producer of things.
And it's knowing and understanding your audience. For us, it was we got bombarded with hundreds of requests for samples, and we still get so many requests for samples. And these people want to argue with you, but I want to become an Elixir dealer. I'm like, look, our policy is, if you want to become an Elixir dealer, no problem. Go and buy 2 bottles of Elixir online, either buy a twin taster or an Elixir trio. And if you end up becoming an Elixir dealer, we will comp you the amount that you spent on that Elixir for your first order. That's how it's going to work for us. But other than that, we don't send samples out to anybody.
Yeah, we work in quite a similar way. It's not something we generally do, especially for big corporate companies. We get asked that quite a lot. Like, can you send us a branded sample? And that's not something we offer. We can't send branded samples. A lot of the time they're like, can you just send us over 1 or 2 cups? We need to see them physically. I'm like, tell me where you are and I'll tell you the closest shop to you and you can go play with it. Otherwise, if you purchase the sample, we'll comp it for you from your order, which is also what we do. So it's just about having very clear boundaries and very clear, transparency to your customers, and making sure that it is always understood. It's not something that you say at the last second. It's more like, this is how we operate. These are our terms. Yeah. And we would love to help you in every way, shape, and form. We're here to work with you. You could call me, you could email me. I'm here for you. But then I can't, if I set aside my policies for you, I would do that for everyone else. So I can't do that.
Yeah, and it's about consistency. So, I mean, it's the same as everything in business. If you're consistent and you know what the company line is, and you treat everyone without concession, you've got to have the same rules for everybody. And that's just the way it's got to go. Otherwise, it's just not going to flow. When people ask about, what's the important things in business, I'm like, that's pretty much one that's right up there. You've got to understand what you're about and what you're willing to offer, and then just be consistent across the board with it.
Yep, correct. Yeah, it's one of the most valuable messages you can give is fully, completely, wholeheartedly understand the business inside out and transparently express that and make it consistent in how you do so. And especially when you have staff or employees or a team, make sure that they get that inside out. Yeah, you need to stay on top of that. You cannot let go of training and constantly reassessing yourself and those that work in your team.
It also creates such an easier access to peace of mind, which is our number one currency at Elixir, where everything that we do is trying to build wealth in peace of mind. And for us, we have one price. We wholesale Elixir to every single person every single company for the same price, and we are unwavering on that. We do not give anyone a different price, no matter how much they purchase from us. Every unit is the same wholesale price. And for us, that makes it, not only is the messaging easier, but we don't get into these weird kind of bullshit wars between our wholesale customers. Oh, this person got it for a different price than what we got it. No, everyone knows the same. Everyone gets the same message. We sell one product. We sell Elixir. And we've done the pricing in a way where we know how much we can spend on coffee. And because of that, the product doesn't change. So our cost of goods have our upper and lower limits. We know how to work within that scope. And once we work within that scope, then we can have a product that costs a standard price across the board. So it's working well for us that way.
I wish I could do the same.
I know, right?
Unfortunately, it's not that simple for us because we do have competitors, unlike yourself. That's, I guess, the really unique and special thing about Elixir is that there's nothing else like it. But with a reusable product, it's, especially right now, it's such a huge market. So we stay very much true to ourselves and to our clients. We connect with what is happening in the market, and we make sure that we are in no way, shape, or form more expensive than what's currently available, unless it is a matter of quality and materials use. So obviously a plastic version will be cheaper, but we just love our clients, and they so understand that we have no issue or drama with that whole process, just because of, the connection between the client and us. They really get what they're purchasing, and it works for them. So,
dude, I don't know how people drink out of plastic. It's so gross.
It is. It's really funny. I read an article recently about this news reporter who she wrote a piece on reusable cups and how she was trying to, push her, recycling initiatives forward. Yeah. And she's just going, oh, I had a glass cup, but it just doesn't suit me. Like, I just think I'm going to break it. Right?
What does that mean?
Right. She thought she was going to break it. So, and there was a line of going, glass doesn't work for everyone, especially clumsy people. So I guess I'll have to stick to my plastic reusable cup. And I just read it going like, this is so uneducated, because you're therefore pushing and promoting a
sustainable agenda.
Well, you think you are, but what you're really saying is, let's go buy plastic cups because they won't break when I drop them. But you're just adding to landfill, which is what we're constantly trying to educate people on. Is if you're gonna buy a reusable product, buy it that when it has an end life, because it will, because people are lazy, people get over things quickly, people like change. They
break shit.
They break shit, whatever. You're going to end up throwing it in the bin. So why don't you think about that? Just because you have a recycling box in your kitchen doesn't mean it gets recycled. It still goes to landfill most of the time in Australia anyway. So people really need to think forward about what they're doing.
But do you experience that people do think about those things? They don't here.
They are definitely starting to. We have a very passionate percentage of people in Australia that are so well educated and so well, thought through with what is going on realistically, that it's so nice and so refreshing to see and to work with them. But there's still a huge amount of general population that don't even understand what a reusable cup is. Like, I've had conversations with people where they're like, I don't get it. Why would I use this? So it's changing, but it's still a challenge.
Awesome. What's the feedback been like from baristas?
I think I've truly only experienced one or two baristas, face-to-face at least, that have said they don't like it. And it was because they still just don't like using reusable cups. And it was their issue with having to receive them from a customer not washed properly.
And that's the worst. I have to tell you, when a customer turns up with a dirty reusable cup, I actually won't make them a coffee in it.
But here's the issue that you have to solve, right? So whose attitude needs to change? yours or theirs?
Well,
Because what I'm trying to say is that although it's unpleasant for you, if you say to them that I don't want to use this unless it's clean, they will have embarrassment. They will have a negative experience. Hold on. You'll see what I'm getting to in a second. I'm not saying what they're doing is right. I'm saying that there's a better way to deal with it, because you have to set the example for them and say, I will clean this for you, but you stuffed up. You did this wrong. This can't happen again, but keep bringing it back. Like, don't deter them.
That's not my issue, though. My issue is that it's a health problem.
Yes.
And that's where I'm coming at it from, in that I actually don't know what's in this cup. I don't know what germs you have. I don't know if me cleaning this is then going to contaminate my equipment. And past that, it could be a public health issue. And that's what my concern with it is. It could be my science background being an asshole towards me, and I can't get over it. I've been a germaphobe my whole fucking life. But it's a weird kind of thing of, if you're bringing me a clean cup, then that helps me get over the fact that I'm using a reusable cup. I'm making you a coffee in a reusable cup. Whereas if you're bringing me a dirty cup, I have no idea how long that's been sitting in your car. I don't know if there's any mold in there that's about to manifest itself or bloom or whatever. And I don't want to be responsible for passing that on to my other customers. And it's in a food safe environment, that is a real concern.
It's definitely an issue that needs to be solved, though, because it's something that I talk about a lot. And what about, so you know how when you're cleaning the milk jug, there's the milk spout? And you put the milk on and it spouts up and it cleans it.
Are you talking about the juggler, the rinser thing? Like
yeah.
Okay.
So why can we use that? Is there not a way that we can integrate a similar design for reusable cups? Because if you look at the ratio of how many cafes sell and serve in reusable cups now, or give discounts for bringing one in, there's literally not a cafe in Sydney, for example, that doesn't have use of them, like doesn't use them. So I think we need to start integrating it into the fit outs and into the design.
I hear you, but there's still the concern that whatever is in that cup, I can't control. And if I then end up contaminating the health of my other customers because you brought in a cup that has God knows what in it.
But by putting it upside down on the cleaner, does it not at least solve that problem, so you're not touching it?
No, it's not about me necessarily touching it. It's about the equipment touching it.
Yeah, right.
So if it touches the espresso spout, if it touches the milk jugs as I'm pouring into it, as the lip of the milk pitcher, the milk jug touches that cup, all of these things are cross-contaminants. And so if I'm putting it upside down onto a jug rinser, what ends up happening is the jug rinser sprays up into the jug, and the contents of that is going to fall back onto the jug rinser. And so the jug that I then rinse over the top of that is going to be cross-contaminated with what was in the
Look, I get it. It makes sense. But I think that it's something that needs to be talked about more. That it's something
I agree with you. I think that
solved, because that is right now one of the biggest deterrents is baristas being upset about receiving a dirty cup. But then we have to somehow break that, that issue halfway, because you can blame the person bringing it, obviously, because yes, it is their fault, because they should have been more responsible. But the problem is people are not responsible. People are lazy. People are rushed. Maybe you're a mum and you've got 3 kids and you didn't have time and you forgot and you left it in the car, but you really want to make sure you use your cup because you can't possibly use a takeaway cup because you've now ingrained it in your head. What does she do next?
And I absolutely hear you. And this is the thing that I kept getting pushback with from customers. It's like, look, I really want to do this for you. It's just that I won't put the health of my other customers at risk. It's just, and that is my food safety training. It's my science training. It's all of that. It's a real public health problem. If what you have got, if your soured milk has been contaminated with salmonella or with any other kind of quite serious bacteria. I'm not going to compromise the health of the rest of my customers. And I'm sorry if that offends that customer, but it's going to make them think twice about doing that. It's not fair to everybody else that comes to the cafe that I'm working at. I mean, it's been a couple of years now since I was working in a cafe, but it's a legitimate argument. It's not about, fuck, I don't want to clean it out. That's the only problem that I have with it.
Yeah. I think that's the point, is that it's both sides are a legitimate argument. Like, I will never go to a cafe and get a coffee if I don't have my cup. I don't care how much I need a coffee. If I don't have my cup, I cannot get a coffee. End of story. Like, that's it. Closed. So it sort of comes down to, like, obviously we have to be more responsible as individuals, but we also can't control life all the time. So there has to be a middle ground. So maybe it could be as simple as be proactive and go and use the bathroom and wash it out in the sink, or, you know, something like that. Exactly. Or maybe there's a tap somewhere in the cafe or a station, a cleaning station that, you know, becomes a new exciting initiative for fit outs. There's a reusable cup station and you can go and, you know, give it a clean. It could be something along those lines, and it could be simple and doesn't have to be expensive, but I think it's worth trying and doing and pushing for and talking about to see how we can solve it, because it is becoming a reality. Everyone should have a reusable cup. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you like them or you don't like them. Everyone should have one, because the stats are extraordinary about what's going on with waste and landfill, and it's just not fair. And this problem has to be solved for sure. Because right now, I think that's the only barrier.
Yeah, I think that I like the idea of sending customers, if all it does is stop them from doing it again and again, but telling them to, look, you're more than welcome to go wash your cup in the bathroom, the restroom, and then bring it to me, and I'm happy to make your coffee.
I think that's a nice break.
They'll never come, if they're uncomfortable with that, they'll never come back with a dirty cup again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and again, the worst thing that will happen.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, the worst thing that will happen is they might not want to go to that cafe anymore, but they'll probably go to the next cafe and have it clean. So, I mean, that's like the worst case scenario. But sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that's fine. I think that it's a really important thing that we need to start doing. We're seeing a lot of it happen here in America, which is great. A lot of people are bringing their own cups, but it seems to be in pockets. So particular cafes, they're the same kind of people that walk around with their own plate and spoon as well. Which, look, I'd love to see a lot more people walk around with their own reusable cup. But here, you go to a cafe and you ask for a glass of water, they won't give it to you in a glass. I know it's so funny. I had the biggest argument with a cafe owner in a really rural area. I was out in the country, and I was absolutely so thirsty, and I wasn't staying in the cafe to eat or to drink coffee. And I just said to him, look, may I please have a glass of water, but can I have it in that cup? And he's like, why? And he's like, are you taking it away? I'm like, no, like, I'm literally just going to like drink it right now and give it back to you. And I apologize for the inconvenience, but I'm so thirsty. Can I just have tap water? And he refused to do it. Refused. And I even said to him, like, I would happily purchase something. Like, I apologize. Like, I will buy that bar, or, you know, whatever it was. I was like, please, like, wouldn't do it. I had to leave the cafe and go somewhere else because why would he not do it? He wanted to give it to you in a plastic cup or a paper cup.
Maybe he didn't want to have the dirty cup left. Like, he didn't want to waste a glass or something. But then I think, but I don't want to waste a plastic cup. Like, I don't want a straw. Yeah. I don't want a big milkshake plastic thing.
Of water. You don't want to pay for.
I didn't need it. Like, I had a bottle of, like, my own bottle of water in my car, but I was far away from my car, and I just wanted a glass of water. Not the worst thing in the world to ask for, you know.
No. Yeah.
And he just wouldn't do it. He would not give it to me. He was just absolutely so stuck in his way and so argumentative. And the funny thing is he still took the plastic takeaway cup thing and filled it up with water and gave it to me. He's like, here, have it. Like, and I was like, but it's like, now I have to almost drink the water based on the fact that you just poured it and I really need it. But then what am I supposed to do with this?
With a cup.
With a cup. Like, I don't want to touch it even. Like, it makes me feel guilty. Like, I don't like, now I know you're just going to throw it out because you've used it. You're not going to, what are you going to do with it? So it was just like the most, it like pulled at all your senses. Like, it's just like, I didn't know what to do. Like, do I take this with me and use it again and again until it's death? But then I thought, I really don't want to, because I don't like drinking from plastic. And then if you reuse it, it just adds more bacteria and chemicals to it. And I don't want it to heat up in my car. Like, it's all the, all the things you go through in your head. And I just was so lost. I just did not know what to do in that situation. And I absolutely hate that.
Do you think it comes down to a lack of education?
A combination of that and stubbornness and ego. Like, I just think some people just don't give a shit. They might be very educated and very smart, but they just don't care. And that's a very old school process of thinking. Like, I know really smart people who don't give a shit,
Oh, yeah.
And it could be both. It could be someone who is uneducated truly and has a lot of potential to change, because everyone likes to learn. That's a basic psychology. Everyone likes to be taught something new and then share that and feel like they are then re-educating. That's really exciting for people. But you never know. You really have to get deep into that person's psyche to understand what's going on, because I've had so many conversations with people where I'm like, you are incredibly intelligent. You are, I can see it. But why are you fighting me on this? Have I done something to offend you in the way I've proposed the conversation? Or, what is keeping you from letting go and learning or changing? Like, why are you so
the cognitive
backed up on this?
That I was telling you about. That's exactly what it is. People don't want to shift from their old ways. Most people don't want to. And there is a healthy group of people out there that want to learn and they want to evolve and they are open-minded and free thinkers and all that kind of shit. But there is the majority of the population that, unless the effect is to them immediately.
Yeah. Exactly.
They don't see what's happening to the oceans. They don't give a fuck about what's happening to the oceans.
Well, that's why the funny thing is I usually use a different perspective. Like, if I'm having an argument like that or a conversation, I say to them, let me ask you a different question. I understand you don't give a shit about the environment. Perfectly fine. But do you care about your family? Do you care about your wife that is pregnant? Do you care about your children? And they're like, I don't understand. What does that have to do with anything? And I said, well, let's say you have your wife is pregnant. If I'm talking to a man, sorry, that is, let's say your wife is pregnant or you're pregnant and you have your beautiful baby and you start giving them milk in a plastic baby bottle. Can we talk about the impact on their health as a baby, as a newborn, ingesting chemicals from this heated and reheated, constantly plastic bottle that you heat the milk in? Like, what it would happen to you if you knew that was actually affecting the health and the progress of your child or yourself, your body, that if in a couple of years of consistently doing this, you could see some really dramatic impacts. If we tested your blood levels and it showed a huge amount of BPA percentage or other chemicals, wouldn't you be really concerned that you were packed filled with toxins and it could be detrimental to you? And a lot of the time they look at me like, shit, I never thought about that.
Stop talking your woo-woo bullshit. That's what a lot of people think.
It depends. It depends who you're talking to. A lot of the time you get a positive reaction and are like, okay, I kind of see what you're saying now. Or you get the fuck off. Leave me alone. And it's which is both perfectly fine, because I'm not a preacher. I'm not here to preach and to, walk out on the streets and yell and hold signs. I want to make change and positive impact as much as I can, but with respect to the fact that you can't force people to change, but you can inspire them and educate them. And if they choose to actively connect to you and to that, then that's a beautiful thing. But you just have to respect it, I guess, as well.
Well, we've got to do something, because the way that the planet's going with regards to waste management is so
Horrible.
unhealthy and so fucking terrifying. Cafes are particularly notorious for how much we waste, whether it be water, whether it be
food waste,
food,
water waste, everything. I work very closely with the Chamber of Commerce in Eastern Suburbs. I'm on the board. I'm actually going to be the vice president this year, which is very exciting.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really special. So we work very closely with Waverley Council and with local councils to talk about this. Like, I'm actually hosting an event this Sunday for Plastic Free July. That's specifically going to be a 1-hour session of, it's like, imagine speed dating, but for ideas. So it's going to be really fun and interactive, very, very cool. But it's about trying to engage with the community, not just the cafe owners, because the problem is the cafe owners, unless there's an issue in their face, they don't want to know about it. It'll just like that stubborn person, unless it directly affects them, they don't care, because they're busy and they've got shit to do and they've got a cafe to run. And it's about working your way inwards and showing them that your loyal customers, the ones that you run by, because of them you're successful, actually are asking you for something. And that's a really interesting new method that we're working on in the East, is how can we actually change the hub of Bondi, for example, into being a more processed, forward-thinking, environmentally forward-thinking community, and how can we actually work together instead of on an individual level? How can we create a waste solution together? Like if we take all of Hall Street, for example, and there's some really, really exciting things happening from that. So it's just about trying to push ideas and really be proactive about it.
That's so exciting, dude. Are you enjoying being on the Chamber of Commerce?
Oh, I love it. I love it. It's all volunteer based, so it's a lot of work for.
Is it?
It's all your free time, basically, because we are just constantly working so hard. We're such a great group of. It's a small team, but a great group of people. All business owners, all entrepreneurs, all passionate about building business in the community, but also very passionate about health and fitness and environment and sustainability. So it's very inspiring.
That's so exciting. I have never been involved in anything like that. So I've always been fascinated by people who do get in on that kind of stuff. And what do you get out of it? Like, what do you enjoy? How does it feed you?
I'm learning so much, Lee. Like, I get to work with some of the most interesting people, because a lot of the time I am directly working with local parliament, like local politicians, or the councillors in the area. It's very much like we're all just sitting around a table talking, and I want to strangle them most of the time because there's so much red tape, and I'm like that little fiery, I'm the youngest person in the group, I'm the loudest, I'm the most opinionated, and they kind of want to strangle me sometimes as well because I won't shut up. But it's really nice to be part of the conversation and feel like I'm actually a voice for the rest of the community. Yeah, and I'm actually directly talking to the change maker. It's not just like someone random. I'm actually talking to the person that can basically make changes directly. And I get the opportunity to speak on behalf of everyone else and say, you're not listening to me. Stop talking. This is what needs to happen.
Absolutely see you saying that too.
I'm being very toned down right now. It gets pretty fiery.
You don't have to.
Yeah, it gets. I know.
Have you heard this podcast?
It gets really intense. It's a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to actually be part of that whole world and get to raise my voice a little bit. Yeah.
So what's going to be next for Solcups?
Look, we are definitely expanding our product line. That's a big thing for us. We're working on some really cool, innovative products. We're about to release.
Sorry to cut you off there, but you don't just have the cups. You have the cups and the bottles, right?
Yeah, I'll show you. We do reusable water bottles as well.
And people
This is
don't
our
break
green
them.
one.
Honestly, that astounds me.
It's all relative. I mean, of course there are breakages, but
Yeah.
if we look at the percentage to what's sold to how many times I hear if someone's broken one, it doesn't really count. It's
That's
very
awesome.
small, and we're very supportive. If someone emails me and says something ridiculous happened, like my something broke or something was faulty, like we're gonna replace it or fix
Yeah.
it. We're very, very accountable for all
Great.
that. But yeah, so we've got cups and sizes, we've got water bottles, we've got tote bags, waterproof pouches. We've got our beautiful reusable straws coming out in September, which I'm very excited by. And some other really, really special, very cool products coming out soon, which I can't say anything yet, but you can stay tuned. Yeah.
That's
But
go ahead.
I was just going to say that obviously, despite product development, we're obviously international, and that's going to be the biggest goal for us for the next year or two, is just make sure that we focus really, really deeply on growing those markets and making them really special.
Yeah, that's awesome. We are not allowed to announce this yet, but there's something happening in Sydney. Not with Elixir, with Map It Forward.
Oh,
Sometime this year.
all
And it's
right.
a big deal.
Keep me posted.
So we should see if we can work together on a project. We got the yes that it's going ahead yesterday.
Amazing. Congratulations. Well,
Thanks.
you can call me anytime and we can always talk about it.
Well, when I'm there, we'll definitely be grabbing a coffee.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely happening. It's going to
That's exciting. Okay.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. But we're going to be organizing a few things around that. And we're hopefully going to be making this big announcement before the end of the month.
All right. I'll be watching.
So it'll be fun. Now, just before we wrap up, tell me, where can people find whatever it is that they want to know about Solcups? Because I really want people to find a way to get access to a brand that I think is fantastic. I think that you're fantastic. I think that people who back themselves, and that's why what I differentiate make the differentiation between business owners and entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are people who, in my eyes, have had an idea that's different from the mainstream and have backed themselves when the majority of people are probably going to push back on what they're doing. And you've definitely experienced that. So one, for whatever it's worth, I'm super proud of having been able to witness your journey and watch from afar.
Likewise.
Thank you. So how do people figure out how they can get a Solcup or a bottle or straws or whatever it is that's coming? And can they get it all over the world?
Yes. So you can head to solcups.com, which is our Australia-based website. But if you're in the UK or New Zealand, it'll convert you, or you can just follow the link. But if you're in the US or anywhere in Canada, all you have to do is go to a website called One Less, like one as in a number, but ONE, One Less. .io, and that is our lovely, lovely partners over there, our sole distributors, and you can purchase them online and they'll ship all over the US or Canada. But if you just want to read the story and get to know me a little bit more, all our blogs are on the solcups.com website as well, so you can have a little bit of a play.
Solcups.
Cups with an S at the end.
And just because I want to include this in the show notes, One Less, LESS
yes.
.io. Okay, cool. And you were going to mention something for anyone that's listening to this podcast.
Yes, we will do a Map It Forward discount code for you guys. We'll do 15% off. I just have to get it all activated for you, no problem. And that will be obviously for Australia, and we can do the UK and New Zealand as well. But I'll just have to have a chat to our lovely friends in America to make sure they're okay with that. So I'll confirm with Lee after.
And let's make the code I Map It Forward.
Sure. Done.
So and when we can confirm that for America and Canada, we'll post it on our socials and make sure that we get the word out if that goes ahead. But we'll definitely include all of that in the show notes. I'm it forward. Fantastic. Lovely, Rebecca. It's been fabulous having you and getting some time to chat with you and hear about how it's all going. Thanks for making some time, and thanks for fixing the internet issues that were going on.
Thank you for having me. I feel like we could literally talk forever. There's so many things we didn't cover and so many things we could cover still. And, you know, it's so nice to just get to have a chat with you again. And I cannot wait to see you back home.
Neither can I. I'm so excited about it, especially once we make this announcement. It'll be a lot of fun. And we definitely got some coffee time happening when I get back to Australia. And I would love for you to come back onto the podcast in a little while and keep us up to date. And, you know, this whole thing is about just having conversations with people. So I hope that you'll come back again sometime soon.
I would love to.
Anytime. Have a fabulous day over in Sydney. And
thank you very much.
Bye, my darling. Take care.
I'll talk to you soon.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.